So are you ready for this one? Because today we are going deep
Oh, yeah.
into a story that you specifically requested.
That's right.
The life, the career, and the legacy of Donald Trump.
It's a big one.
And let me tell you, getting ready for this,
Yeah.
I was struck by how much there is to unpack.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot there.
I mean, we're talking real estate.
Right.
We're talking reality TV.
Yeah.
We're talking the White House. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And you know what's fascinating to me is just how polarizing a figure he remains.
Oh, for sure.
Like, people tend to have very strong opinions about Donald Trump.
They do.
But as always, our goal here isn't to debate those opinions.
Right.
It's to understand the journey.
Exactly. And speaking of journey,
Yeah.
he didn't exactly start from scratch, right?
No, he did not.
Born in Queens, June 14th, 1946.
Okay.
His dad, Fred Trump, was already a big name in New York real estate.
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to shape a kid's worldview, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, seeing that world of construction deals and ambition firsthand,
Right.
it's fertile ground for someone like Donald Trump.
Yeah, for sure.
And that upbringing becomes even more interesting when you look at his early business moves.
Okay, so...
He didn't just follow in Dad's footsteps.
Well, he did join the family business after Wharton.
Right.
But you're right, he rebranded it to the Trump Organization.
Yeah.
And then came the iconic Trump Tower in the 80s.
Right.
That really put him on the map.
It did.
And it wasn't just about building, it was about image, luxury.
Yeah. Trump Tower was almost a declaration.
Always
He wasn't content with blending in.
Huh.
He wanted to stand out to be the biggest, the boldest, the most talked about.
So we've got this ambitious young guy making waves in New York real estate.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing, right?
It was not.
He had some major financial setbacks, including that whole Atlantic City casino debacle.
Now, some might call those setbacks learning experiences, but I think they reveal something deeper about Trump's approach to business.
Yeah.
You look at the Taj Mahal casino.
Okay.
He poured $1 billion into it.
Wow.
Touted it as the 8th wonder of the world, and then it went bankrupt within a year.
Boy, $1 billion down the drain.
Yeah.
That's gotta sting.
It does.
Even for someone as rich as Trump?
Of course.
What happened there?
Well, there were allegations of mismanagement, overspending, and a failure to adapt to the changing casino market.
I see.
Some critics even pointed to a pattern of risky ventures and an over-reliance on debt financing.
So resilience
Yeah.
or recklessness?
That's the question, isn't it?
I guess it's up for debate, but it definitely fits with the image of Trump.
It
As
does.
someone who swings for the fences,
He does.
even if it means striking out sometimes.
Exactly. He's not afraid to take risks, even colossal ones.
Wow.
And that attitude, for better or worse, is a recurring theme throughout his career.
Speaking of risks, who could have predicted that this real estate mogul,
Right?
known for skyscrapers and boardrooms,
Yeah.
would become a reality TV star?
That's quite a leap.
And not just any reality show,
Right.
but The Apprentice,
The Apprentice.
which, if we're being honest,
Yeah,
offered a pretty unfiltered glimpse into his personality.
I think so.
Did you ever watch it?
I caught a few episodes.
Look me.
Yeah, it was fascinating to see how he used the show to cultivate this image
Okay.
as this tough, decisive leader.
Interesting.
You're fired. Became a catchphrase.
Oh, yeah?
And it perfectly captured his no-nonsense approach.
Right. It wasn't just about business acumen.
Yeah.
It was about personality showmanship
Mm-hmm.
and that blunt, sometimes brutal honesty that people either loved or hated.
Exactly. And I think that's a key
Okay.
to understanding his later political success.
Interesting.
He understood the power of entertainment, of connecting with people on an emotional level, and of using media to his advantage.
But to truly understand Trump's impact,
Yeah.
we have to shift gears now.
Okay.
Not boardrooms, but TV screens.
Yeah.
This is where everyone got to know him, whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah, that's true.
So tell me, did you watch The Apprentice? I'm curious how it affected your view of him, if at all.
Well, you know, it's funny. For all his time in the public eye, there's this carefully crafted persona,
Okay.
right? He's not just rich.
Yeah.
He's ostentatious.
Okay.
Not just successful, but a winner.
Right.
Did The Apprentice feed into that, or was it already there?
It's like the show was custom built to amplify those qualities.
Right. Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Millions of people tuned in each week,
That's right.
drawn to his brash style and no-nonsense approach.
It's compelling.
But that same bluntness that appealed to some rubbed others the wrong way.
Of course. And that's the paradox of Trump. He's incredibly polarizing.
Yeah.
People either love him or
Uh-huh.
hate him. And there's rarely any middle ground.
Maybe that's why his foray into politics was so explosive.
It really was.
I mean, 2015, he announces he's running for president.
Right.
Most people laughed it off.
Yeah.
But then he taps into something.
That's right.
This frustration with the establishment.
Yeah.
A desire for change.
Yeah.
No matter how radical.
His Make America Great Again slogan was brilliant, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's catchy.
It spoke directly to people who felt left behind,
Okay.
ignored by the political elite.
Right. So they felt seen.
And suddenly this reality TV star, this
Yeah.
billionaire businessman, was their champion.
You know, you mentioned earlier how he used the media to his advantage.
I did.
His campaign was a masterclass in that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Twitter wars,
Yes.
rallies that felt more like rock concerts.
Yeah,
He knew how to grab attention and control the narrative.
absolutely. He bypassed traditional media outlets
Wow.
and spoke directly to his supporters through social media,
It's interesting.
creating this echo chamber where his message was constantly amplified.
So no one else could get a word in edgewise.
Right. And honestly, that's something we're still grappling with today.
What is that?
The impact of social media on our political discourse.
So 2016 rolls around, and against all odds,
Yeah.
he wins.
He does.
The outsider,
Yeah.
the disruptor,
Right.
becomes the most powerful man in the world.
They're pretty remarkable.
And I remember thinking, what now?
Yeah.
His policies were just as bold,
They
just as polarizing
For
as
sure.
his campaign rhetoric.
Well, let's look at one specific example.
Okay.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017.
Okay.
This was a signature piece of legislation for Trump,
Right?
and it perfectly illustrates his approach to governance.
Okay. We listen.
Big sweeping changes
Yeah.
aimed at stimulating the economy
Right.
and appealing to his base.
But it wasn't without controversy.
Yeah.
It was not. Critics argued that it disproportionately benefited the wealthy and corporations while adding to the national debt.
And that's the crux of the debate
Yeah.
around many of his policies.
Okay.
Did they deliver on their promises, or did they exacerbate existing inequalities?
Right. It depends on who you ask.
The answers are complex.
Yeah.
And they often depend on your perspective and priorities.
Okay. So we've got the tax cuts.
Right.
But what about his stance on immigration?
Oh, that's a big one.
That was a major focus of his campaign.
It was.
And it led to some of the most controversial policies of his presidency.
Absolutely.
The travel ban,
Right.
the border wall,
Uh-huh.
the family separation policy.
Yeah.
These were all deeply divisive issues that sparked outrage and protests.
And they really highlighted the emotional core of his appeal.
I think so.
For his supporters, it was about security,
Yeah.
about putting America first,
Uh-huh.
about taking a hard line.
On what they saw as a threat.
But for his critics,
Yeah.
it was seen as discriminatory,
Okay.
inhumane,
Right.
and a betrayal of American values.
Yeah.
And again, we see that same pattern of polarization,
Right.
that inability to find common ground.
His presidency was a roller coaster.
It was
That's for
a
sure.
wild ride.
We had the Russia investigation,
Uh-huh.
impeachment proceedings, the COVID-19 pandemic,
Of course.
and through it all, he remained defiant,
He did?
combative,
Yeah.
always on the attack.
There were moments, though,
Really?
even amidst the chaos,
Okay.
where he achieved some surprising bipartisan wins.
Like what?
Criminal justice reform, for example.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
The First Step Act, which he signed into law, was a major accomplishment,
Yeah.
even if it was overshadowed by other events.
Right. It aimed to reduce recidivism and improve conditions in federal prisons.
That's right.
And it had support from both sides of the aisle.
And then there were the Abraham Accords,
Oh, yeah. Tell me about those.
which, as you may recall, normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations.
Wow. So that was a big deal.
A significant diplomatic breakthrough in the Middle East,
Yeah.
a region notoriously difficult to navigate.
It's interesting, though, how those accomplishments
Yeah.
often get lost in the noise
It is.
surrounding his presidency.
It's true.
It's almost like he thrives on the controversy,
Right.
the constant battle,
Uh-huh.
the sense that he's fighting against the establishment,
Yeah.
media,
Right.
the deep state.
Whoever he perceives as the enemy.
So 2021 arrives. He leaves office.
Yep.
But does he fade away?
Not a chance.
Not at all.
Rallies, endorsements, his own social media platform. He's still a major force in American politics.
What fascinates me is that even out of office, he's still shaping the Republican Party.
He is.
His endorsement is highly sought after.
Very much so.
And his views continue to influence the direction of the party. So we've gone from Trump Tower to the Oval Office and back again.
We have.
But what does it all mean?
Yeah.
What's the lasting impact of this whirlwind of a career?
I think it's still too early to say for sure, but one thing is certain.
Okay, what's that?
Donald Trump has changed the face of American politics.
Yeah.
He's exposed deep divisions within our society.
Right.
And he's shown us that the old rules no longer apply.
Yeah, it's like he threw a grenade into the system and the shrapnel's still flying.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to assess the full damage, so to speak.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at a single person's life.
Right.
We're examining a pivotal moment in American history.
Okay.
A moment of upheaval and transformation.
And for you, what stands out?
Yeah.
Was there any point in this wild ride where your view of Trump shifted, for better or worse? Think about that as we go on.
It's funny how we talk about Trump as this force of nature, this disruptor. But he didn't emerge in a vacuum.
That's true.
He's a product of his time, reflecting trends that were already simmering beneath the surface.
You're right. Think about the rise of reality TV.
Exactly.
Growing distrust of institutions. The 24/7 news cycle.
It's like the stage was set for someone like Trump to come along and shake things up.
He tapped into this pre-existing sense of frustration and anger. This feeling that the American dream was slipping away for many people.
And he offered a simple, albeit often divisive, solution: make America great again.
And that message resonated with millions of people.
It did.
Particularly those who felt ignored or marginalized by the political establishment.
That's right.
But let's be honest.
Okay.
His appeal goes beyond just policy or ideology.
I think so.
There's something about his personality, his showmanship, his ability to connect with people on an emotional level that makes him so compelling.
He's a master storyteller, wouldn't you say?
He's a good storyteller.
He understands how to create drama, how to build suspense, how to keep people hooked.
Okay.
And he's not afraid to say what others are thinking, but won't say out loud.
It's just like he's constantly pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable.
Yeah.
Testing the limits of our political discourse.
For sure.
And whether you agree with him or not,
Right.
you can't deny that he's changed the game.
He's shown us that the old rules of politics no longer apply.
Wow.
That anything is possible, and that the future is more uncertain than ever before.
So you're saying we're in uncharted territory.
I think so.
And that's a bit unsettling.
It is a little bit.
It's like he's exposed this vulnerability in our democracy.
Yeah.
This susceptibility to emotional appeals and misinformation.
It makes you wonder.
It does. What is next?
Where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's important to remember that we're not powerless.
That's true.
We have a voice.
We do.
We have a vote.
Yes.
And we have a responsibility to engage in the political process.
Absolutely.
And that means being informed.
It does.
Being critical of the information we consume.
Yeah.
And being willing to have difficult conversations with people who hold different views.
That's so important.
You're right. We can't just sit back and let the forces of division and polarization tear us apart.
No, we can't.
We have to find ways to bridge the gaps.
We do.
To rebuild trust.
Right.
And to find common ground.
It's essential.
And that's not going to be easy.
No, it's not.
Especially in the current climate.
But it's essential if we want to preserve our democracy.
Right.
And ensure a better future for generations to come.
I agree.
And maybe, just maybe, that's part of the Trump legacy as well.
What do you mean?
He's forced us to confront these challenges, to have these difficult conversations, and to recognize the fragility of our political system.
That's a really thought-provoking way to look at it.
It is a complex issue.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life, career, and legacy of Donald Trump, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this conversation?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Donald Trump is more than just a man. He's a phenomenon.
Interesting.
He's a reflection of our times, a product of the forces that have shaped our world.
Okay.
And understanding him requires understanding the context, the history, and the deeper trends that made his rise possible.
He's a reminder that we live in a complex and rapidly changing world.
We do.
Where the old certainties no longer hold.
That's for sure.
And navigating this new landscape requires critical thinking.
It does.
Open-mindedness.
Absolutely.
And a willingness to engage in constructive dialogue.
Yeah.
Even with those we disagree with.
Well said.
And to you, our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it sparked your curiosity.
We do.
Given you some food for thought.
Lots to think about.
And remember, the story of Donald Trump is still being written.
That's right.
What role he'll play in the years to come.
Yeah.
And what his ultimate legacy will be.
It's hard to say.
Well, that's a question that only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Thanks for listening.